Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I wanted to talk about this shooting at the nightclub in Tampa, Florida. Uh, but first, I want to play a clip because I want to get everybody's point of view as how they feel about. Wait a minute. About this shooting that took place, a Halloween party. It's like let's see.
Murder charge, accused in a shooting that killed two people and left 16 others injured. Tampa police believe Tyrell Phillips was in a dispute with another person during Halloween celebrations in Ybor City, leading to the shots being fired. They say a 14 and 22-year-old were killed. 15 others were shot. One person has serious injuries.
We have got to say as a country that enough is enough. We can't just come back to the microphones day after day and give our sincere, heartfelt condolences to the victims of firearm violence. We as a country have got to make decisions.
So officials say most of the people who were hurt have already been released from the hospital. At last check, 5 were still receiving care.
So, what do you think? Um, this was the nightclub or the scene where it was a Halloween party that took place. York City Nightlife. This is in Tampa, Florida. It was a Halloween celebration that left 2 people deceased, and it was really 18 that was hospitalized. But I think all have been released, but maybe 5. And as of today, they may have been released. So I'm not sure of that. But the suspect accused of opening fire in the heart of Ybor City nightlife scene, killing 2 people. I don't know if it was gang related or not, but it was, according to the police, this happened about 3 a.m. Sunday morning, and this was in the 1600 block of East 7th Avenue. It was also, somebody had also videoed it and live streamed it, and they were asking for help with anybody that had live streamed it if they could call in, because they wanted to have the people that did the shooting responsible. But it was between 2 different groups. It was hundreds of innocent people involved that were in the way they were shooting. One person was killed. He was 14 years old. And I think it was another person that was killed that was 17. So it must have been, well, a number of people of different ages could attend. They said that the second child done to loss to violence, it was 16 people that were hospitalized. A good majority of them have already been released, which I had stated that 5 victims still remaining in the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Over 50 police officers were in the area when the shooting took place. And so it's sad when police are in the area monitoring, because it was over hundreds of people that attended, and still people would still shoot into a crowd. So this is the scene where you see different police officers. They were out here monitoring the scene as it unfolded, 3 o'clock in the morning. This is the young man's father. He's talking to the police, and his son got shot. His 14-year-old son had gotten shot. They arrested Tyrell Phillips. He was 22, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. And let me see. One person had already turned themselves in. I think it was two shooters. One turned themselves in, and this was one of the shooters that that turned themselves in. But the video was on social media, and you could see people in their Halloween costumes. They was walking up and down the walkway. Some was in the facility. Some were running when they heard the gunshots. Well, everybody's gonna take off running. The shooter could be heard on live stream. You could hear him shoot while somebody was videoing the people running. And this was in Tampa Bay area. People were panicking, and that serves right, because who wouldn't panic? And you in a crowd and somebody shooting, or you hear shots shooting, everybody's just going to take off running, and it's probably a stampede of people running over people, trying to get to safety. And so the police definitely want to hold the two shooters that I guess they were shooting at each other accountable for what they have done. And that was the mayor, Jane Castro. And she was talking about how senseless it was, and gun control would have helped prevented the incident from happening. Yes, again, another senseless loss of life by those choosing to settle a dispute with firearms. Lives lost and others forever changed. Forever changed. And this was coming from the mayor. And the Tampa Police Department had over 50 police officers there in the area. So it wasn't, as far as the police, it wasn't a police and law enforcement issue. It was bad decisions made in a split second. You could just hear guns, just people shooting, just trying to settle a dispute, and that wasn't the way to do it in the middle of a crowd. It makes you feel like you can't go anywhere and have a great time without somebody bringing a gun to the scene. So now you've got innocent people getting shot, and two end up dead for something that wasn't right. But the 14-year-old guy was black, and then it was a 22-year-old white male that was killed. I think one died at the scene and one was taken to the hospital and later died. So my heart goes out to the families, definitely. Majority of the victims were between 18 and 27 years of age that had been released from the hospital. Surveillance count, they did have surveillance cameras up, I guess up on poles and stuff, uh, that led to, and which could lead to the arrest of other shooters if there were any, besides the two that they did find out about, because one turned themselves in and I think the other one they probably picked up on the cameras. And they said what happened was completely unacceptable, and the Tampa Police Department is not going to, they're not going to tolerate it. Uh, they're going to make sure that the people get prosecuted for what they've done. They're going to pay for their crimes. And it was the Halloween costume. You could see people drinking and walking up and down the street before the shots ringed out, which triggered a stampede. And I could imagine people running over each other, just trying to find cover. They were tumbling over metal tables. Some took cover behind them. So several people were just lying there on the ground, wounded. Some people had stampeded, they running over the top of them. I guess people panic. And so that's a shame, that this had to happen. But this is one of the victims, Tyrell Phillips, and he's in the county jail, possibly with no bond. So he was one of the shooters. And I didn't find a release of the other shooter. So it did say that person was in custody, but they have not shown their picture as who the other shooter was. So I would like to know your thoughts. Do you think it was gang related? Because right now we're finding that a lot of teenagers or older, well, young people are in gangs now. Not sure if this was gang related or it's just two people that had beef with each other and decided to gonna settle their dispute in a crowd at a Halloween celebration. That was definitely not the place to have a shootout. It could have been avoided. So if you got teenagers, please talk to your teenagers. I mean, this is not the way to go. You're going to end up spending the rest of your life in prison, or a majority of your life, because you got two innocent people that were shot and they're dead and they got to pay for that. Look at the people that were hurt. You don't know how it could affect their life down the road, not knowing where they were shot at. So basically, you got two people just out here shooting in a crowd of people, and I guess they were shooting at each other, but the bullets probably didn't even reach them. It was reaching other innocent bystanders or the people that were running, that were frightened, afraid for their life. And this was senseless. It definitely was a senseless shooting. And if you have children, We've got to save our children by talking to them. Gun violence is not the way. We know they're not going to get rid of the guns, but then we got to put responsibility on the parents. Uh, with talking with your children to make sure that they're not in a gang or they're not out here shooting. We can't. That's if we love our children. We've got to start educating them and talking with them so that they won't end up in prison or changing somebody's life forever. Because the young man, I think his dad said his other son was deceased from gun violence. And then here is his 14-year-old child who's gotten shot and deceased. So to him, I mean, I'm quite sure he's about out of his mind mentally. When you lose somebody and it's unexpected, look at the other young man, his mother. I'm quite sure that their family is in grief. And this could have been avoided. So I say definitely, if you have teenage children, have the conversation. I mean, we've got to do something to stop the violence of gun violence. And if they're not going to take the guns off the streets, then we've got to go to educate our children. We can't put everything on everybody else to raise your children. It's up to us to raise our children. So I definitely want to know your thoughts. Hit the like button. I would definitely appreciate that. Let me know what you think. Do parents need to take more of a responsibility of educating their children about gun violence and not going out here shooting up places? I don't even know. Do you even know if your child got a gun? That's your responsibility to go through their rooms or through their drawers to see exactly what they have, to make sure that they're not going to get in trouble, whether it be drugs or gun violence, or to see if they are in the gang. Parents got to take some type of responsibility. So do you think it's the parents' responsibility, or do you think we're going to keep talking about taking the guns off the streets and they're not going to do that? So who's responsible? Is it more on the parents, or is it more on the government to put something in place to, I mean, well, I guess they have stuff in place to wherein you have to be a certain age to just go and buy a gun, and then they do a background check to make sure you're able to have a weapon. But kids are getting weapons off the streets, and they're not necessarily going to do a background check. I guess you can get a gun anytime from anywhere. So, what are your thoughts? Is it the parents? Should parents take up and do more to help their children where they're not out here uh, doing? We don't know where our children are. Where is your child? Do you know where your children are? You know what they're involved in. So, is it on the parents or is it on the government? You got two issues going on. We want the government to pull the guns off the streets, but then we got to say, well, what are the parents doing to educate our children where they're not out here getting in trouble? So I definitely would like to know your thoughts. Uh, Hit the like button and leave a comment. I would definitely appreciate it. Thank you.